I died choking on my own blood, the metallic tang flooding my mouth as my brother's hands pressed the pillow over my face one last time. His whisper of "This is for the family, Izzy," echoing like a curse in the sterile silence of our Upper East Side brownstone. But death wasn't the end. It was a goddamn reset button, slamming me back into my body 3 years earlier, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. The exact morning he first started scheming to erase me from the canvas of our lives. I gasped awake in my old bed, sheets tangled around me, the faint scent of turpentine from my easel across the room hitting me like a freight train, and in that split second, I knew. I had one shot to paint him out of existence before he could wield the brush. New York City in 2022 was a beast, all concrete teeth and neon veins, and I was Isabella "Izzy" Hargrove, the overlooked black sheep of a family that pretended to care about art, but only worshipped the dollar signs it could fetch. My brother, Ethan, was the golden boy, tall, Ivy League polished, with that predatory smile that closed deals at Christie's auction house, while I scraped by in a Soho loft, churning out paintings no one wanted. Or so they thought. My abstracts weren't just pretty colors splashed on canvas. They were screams encoded in crimson swirls and midnight blues, each stroke hiding fragments of the truth about our family's rotten core. Dad's accidental overdose in 15, Mom's convenient car crash in 18. Ethan had whispered alibis into my ear back then, his arm around my shoulders like a noose disguised as comfort. I believed him, buried the doubts under layers of paint, until that final night when he confessed it all, suffocating me to claim the inheritance and bury my worthless work forever. But now I was back, 28 again, staring at the date on my phone. July 15th, 2019. The day Ethan first approached me with his big idea to help my career by selling off my backlog at a pop-up flea market in Brooklyn. $50 a pop, he'd said, laughing it off as a joke, but I saw the greed in his eyes even then, the first brushstroke of betrayal. I threw off the covers, my bare feet hitting the cold hardwood, and crossed to my easel where Eclipse, my masterpiece, leaned half-finished. The canvas pulsed under my fingers, alive with the secrets I'd layered in. The pill bottle outline in the shadows, the skid marks etched in ochre. If only I'd seen it sooner. If only I'd screamed it louder. I didn't waste time on tears or what-ifs. Revenge isn't a watercolor. It's oil, thick and unyielding, built layer by layer until it suffocates the light. First move, secure the paintings. I hauled every canvas from storage, 50 of them, stacked like forgotten soldiers in the corner of my loft, and locked them in a rented climate-controlled unit in Chelsea, the kind millionaires use for their Picassos. Ethan called that afternoon, his voice all brotherly concern over the line. "Hey, Izzy, you up for that gallery crawl tonight? Might spot some buyers for your stuff." Buyers. The word twisted in my gut like a palette knife. In my first life, I'd said yes, gotten tipsy on cheap Merlot, and let him convince me to offload a dozen pieces the next weekend. They vanished for peanuts, and with them, any proof of what he'd done to our parents. "Not tonight," I said, keeping my tone light, feigning the exhaustion he always exploited. "Got a deadline. But hey, remember that old warehouse in Bushwick? Thinking of staging a show there myself." A lie, but a seed. Let him think I was still the gullible sister, chasing pipe dreams while he plotted. He chuckled, that low rumble that used to make me feel safe. Always the dreamer. Call me if you need muscle to move those monstrosities. Muscle? Yeah, right. I hung up, my hand shaking as I dialed my lawyer instead, a no-nonsense shark named Carla from Brooklyn, the one who'd warned me about family trusts back when I was too naive to listen. By evening, I'd updated my will, notarized it digitally, and emailed copies to Carla. Everything to a scholarship fund for underprivileged artists if I kicked it unexpectedly. No mention of Ethan. Of course, that would tip my hand. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the Hudson in fiery oranges, I stood at my window, nursing a black coffee, mapping the strokes of my plan. Step 1. Expose the fraud in the family finances. Dad's estate wasn't the clean windfall Ethan claimed. I'd glimpsed the ledgers once, hidden in his desk, showing he'd siphoned funds for his gambling debts long before the overdose. But proof? That was buried deeper than Mom's ashes. I started digging that night, laptop glowing in the dark like a Ouija board. Public records first, Ethan's credit reports showed maxed-out cards, liens on his co-op in Tribeca. Then deeper, a PI I'd hired on a whim in my old life. The one who almost cracked the case before Ethan shut him down. I wired him $5,000 from my meager savings, anonymous through crypto, with instructions. Follow Ethan Hargrove. Every receipt, every shadow. It burned to spend it, but knowledge was the pigment. Without it, my revenge was just a sketch. Days blurred into a fever dream of creation and calculation. I painted furiously, finishing Eclipse with a vengeance, embedding a new layer. Coordinates to a safety deposit box I'd open tomorrow, stuffed with photocopies of those ledgers. The canvas became my manifesto, a visual cipher only I could decode, or so I thought. Ethan dropped by unannounced on the third day, bearing bagels from Zabbers like some peace offering. He looked the same, crisp button down, hair slicked just so, but I saw the cracks now, the way his eyes darted to my stacks of unsold work. These things are piling up, sis. Ever think about clearing space? I know a guy who flips street art. I forced a laugh, plating the bagels while my mind raced. Flips? Like pancakes? Nah, these are staying. Got a buyer nibbling. A collector from LA. Another lie, but it landed. His fork paused midair, cream cheese dripping. LA? Who? I shrugged, casual as a summer breeze off the East River. Confidential. But if it pans out, we could split the commission. Family first, right? The words tasted like ash, but they hooked him. He leaned in, that smile sharpening. Family first. Always. That night, alone again, I uncorked a bottle of Chianti and toasted to the ghosts. Mom's laugh, Dad's gruff encouragements, they echoed in the empty loft, fueling the fire. I wasn't just surviving this time. I was rewriting the narrative, stroke by deliberate stroke. But as the wine warmed my veins, doubt flickered like a faulty bulb. What if exposing him destroyed us both? What if the truth painted me as the villain too? No. I crushed the thought, glass clinking against my teeth. Ethan had chosen blood money over blood. Now, I'd make him choke on the colors. The PI's first report hit my inbox at dawn. Photos of Ethan slipping into a dive bar in Hell's Kitchen, envelope exchanged with a shady type, bookie, maybe. Coordinates matched a warehouse in Red Hook, the kind where deals go down without witnesses. My heart hammered as I cross-referenced. That same spot where, in my first life, he'd stashed the pillow after smothering me. The one with my DNA still on it. Evidence. Tangible, damning. I forwarded it to Carla, marked urgent, build the case. Quietly. Weeks turned into a tightrope walk. Ethan pushed harder for the sale, inviting me to lunches at Le Bernardin where he'd drop hints about market saturation and undervalued assets. I'd nod, play the part, all while my network grew. Quiet alliances with gallery owners who'd snubbed me before, now intrigued by whispers of my hidden series. One, a wiry curator named Theo from MoMA, bit first, send samples. If they're as raw as you say, we talk solo show. Raw. Yeah, that was one word for it. But the real tension coiled when Ethan cornered me at a family dinner. Our Aunt Viv, the only relative left who gave a damn, hosting in her West Village townhouse. Over roast chicken and heirloom potatoes, he raised his glass. To Izzy's big break. May those paintings finally pay off. Viv beamed, clueless. I clinked, eyes on his. To Revelations. May they uncover everything worth knowing. His smile faltered, just a twitch, but I caught it. The hook was set. As summer baked the city into a pressure cooker, I layered my plan thicker, each decision a deliberate smear of ultramarine across the blank spaces of fate. Ethan's calls grew frequent, laced with that false cheer masking his impatience, like a canvas stretched too tight, ready to tear. Heard about your MoMA tease, he'd say, voice oily over speakerphone while I mixed pigments in my loft. Don't get ahead of yourself, Izzy. Art world's a shark tank. Sharks. Pot. Kettle, brother dear. In my past life, those words had eroded my confidence, made me hand over keys to my storage unit with a shrug. This time, I dangled bait. I invited him over for strategy session. The loft transformed into a war room. Canvases propped like sentinels, mood boards pinned with clippings of Sotheby's scandals, fakes peddled as originals, estates gutted by greedy heirs. He arrived with craft beer and takeout from Joe's Pizza, settling on my thrift store couch like he owned the place. So, Spill, what's the play? I poured him a IPA, watching his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed the lie I'd laced it with. No, not poison. Truth serum in the form of selective disclosure. I slid over a folder. Mock proposals for a Hargrove legacy exhibit, featuring our parents' lost sketches I'd forged overnight, intertwined with my work. His eyes lit, greed glazing over the caution. This is genius. Tie it to Dad's memory. Collectors eat that nostalgia crap up. He flipped pages, oblivious to the watermark I'd embedded. Faint outlines of bank statements. His signature on the dotted lines siphoning Dad's life insurance. We partner on this. 50-50. I leaned back, crossing my arms, the sleeve of my paint-splattered tee riding up to reveal the fresh tattoo I'd gotten that week. A small eclipse on my wrist, reminder of the shadows he cast. 60-40. My name on top billing. He balked, but I held firm, voice steady as the Brooklyn Bridge. Or I go solo. Your call. The haggling stretched into the humid night, fireflies of tension sparking in the air between us. He conceded, of course. Ethan always did when cornered, then struck from the flanks. As he left, clapping my shoulder too hard, he murmured, "Proud of you, kid. Don't fuck it up. Kid." The diminutive that always made me small. I bolted the door behind him, pulse thundering, and fired off an email to Theo, samples en route. Include Provenance Docs, Family Secrets Edition. The next fortnight was a whirlwind of clandestine moves. I met the PI in a dingy diner off Canal Street, steam from his coffee curling like smoke signals. Marcus was ex-NYPD, grizzled with a Brooklyn accent thick as fog, and his dossier on Ethan was a masterpiece of muckraking. Timestamps of casino runs in Atlantic City, wire transfers to offshore accounts, even a grainy photo of him arguing with Mom the week before her crash, her hand raised, his face contorted in rage. This guy's drowning in red ink. Marcus grunted, sliding over a USB drive. But the overdose? That's the kicker. Lab tech buddy says the tox screen was doctored. Your old man's prints on a vial of fentanyl hidden in the study. Fentanyl. The word hit like a sucker punch. Visions of Dad slumped in his leather chair flashing, blue-lipped, eyes vacant. Ethan finding him while I screamed downstairs. I trusted the coroner's report, buried him with lilies and lies. Now, fury boiled over, spilling into my brushwork. I attacked a new canvas, fracture, slashing cadmium red for the rage, cobalt for the cold calculations. Hidden in the fractures, QR codes, microscopic, linking to scan docs on a dark web drop. If Ethan ever authenticated my work for sale, a scanner would unravel him. But revenge's double edge cut deep. Sleepless nights bred paranoia, every shadow in the alley below my window a tale, every wrong number on my cell his probe. I confided in Viv over brunch at Sarabeth's, her Park Avenue polish cracking as I hinted at family discrepancies. She paled, fork trembling over her French toast. Ethan's always been ambitious. But your parents? God, Izzy, if there's truth. Her voice trailed, eyes wet. I squeezed her hand, the aunt who'd bandaged my scraped knees and bought my first set of oils. Help me stage this right. Invite the right people. She nodded, fierce suddenly. For them. And you. The pop-up sale loomed. Ethan's pet project, rebranded now as our joint emerging artist clearance, in a gentrified warehouse in Dumbo. He'd plastered flyers. Hargrove heirlooms. From worthless to priceless? The dig stung, but I let it, using it to fuel the buzz. Social media hummed with my posts. Teaser shots of canvases shrouded in mystery. Captions dripping irony. What's the real value of a family secret? Likes poured in, shares from influencers in the art scene, even a repost from Theo. Ethan texted fire emojis, clueless to the trap snapping shut. Came the night, rain slicking the cobblestones, turning Brooklyn into a noir film set. The space was a cavern of exposed brick and Edison bulbs, my paintings, 30 select pieces, propped on easels amid folding tables of cheap prints. Ethan worked the crowd in chinos and a blazer, schmoozing hipsters with tales of raw talent meets street grit. I hung back, nursing a seltzer, watching him hawk Eclipse for $50 to a tattooed trust funder. Abstract expressionism on a budget, he crowed, pocketing the cash. My stomach twisted, but I smiled, circulating with Viv at my elbow, dropping breadcrumbs. These aren't just pretty. Decode the layers, and they're worth millions. Whispers spread like wildfire. A critic from art forums sidled up, monocle practically gleaming. Hargrove, as in the late collector? These got provenance. I nodded to the placards, forged but flawless, tying strokes to Dad's influence. Ethan shot me a thumbs up from across the room, oblivious as the bids started murmuring. By midnight, we'd sold 15 pieces, not at 50, but whispers of private offers climbing to 5 figures. He cornered me in the back, exhilarated, clapping my back. Told you, we're unstoppable. Unstoppable. The word hung, heavy with unintended prophecy. But as the last stragglers filed out, thunder rumbling over the East River, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Got him. Video from the bookie meet. Confession on tape. Fentanyl source named. My knees buckled against a crate. Confession. The twist of the knife. I pocketed the phone, rain pattering on the tin roof like applause, and turned to Ethan, rain-slicked and beaming. One more thing, I said, voice steady. Let's authenticate these for the big buyers. Full disclosure. His grin faltered, just a hair. Sure. Family first. That night, back in the loft, I uncorked the Chianti again, but this time with Marcus's file open on my screen. The video played in grainy silence. Ethan in a shadowed booth, voice low. The old man's policy covers it all. Just need the dose right. No mess. My reflection in the monitor stared back, eyes hollow. This wasn't just revenge, it was resurrection, pulling our family's corpse from the grave. But as sirens wailed distant below, I wondered, could I paint over the blood, or would it seep through every layer? The fallout brewed slow, like a storm front rolling in from Jersey. Ethan pushed for a full auction at Sotheby's, his turf, where he could control the narrative, skim the proceeds. I agreed, with conditions. Independent appraisers, public unveiling of the Hargrove cipher, my term for the hidden codes in the paint. He laughed it off over steak at Peter Luger. Cipher? You're turning this into a conspiracy flick. I speared my fillet, rare and bleeding. Art's always conspiracy, layers upon layers. His fork paused, eyes narrowing for the first time with real suspicion. What's your angle, Izzy? This feels off. Off. The understatement of the century. My angle was a guillotine blade, sharpened on years of buried grief. But I played coy, toasting to our legacy. While under the table, my foot tapped the rhythm of impending doom. Viv's invites rolled out next, black tie affair at the warehouse, A-listers only, collectors from the Whitney, critics from the Times, even a DA pal of hers with a nose for white-collar crime. Insurance, she'd whispered when I questioned the prosecutor. Smart woman, my aunt. As autumn leaves turned the parks to fire, my body betrayed the strain, hands cramping from endless painting, nights fractured by nightmares of pillows and blue lips. I confided in Theo over coffee at Housing Works, the bookstore's musty hush a confessional. These works. They're weapons, I admitted, voice low. He stirred his latte, thoughtful, then wheeled them wisely. The art world's forgiving to survivors, not so much to the vengeful. Survivors. The word lingered, a smudge on my conscience. Was I surviving, or just dragging everyone down with me? Ethan's cracks widened. Missed meetings, snapped replies. His bookie breathing down his neck, no doubt. A frantic call at 2 a.m. Izzy loan? Just till the auction. I feigned sleep, mumbling assent, wiring half what he asked from an account I'd flagged for tracing. Let the feds follow the breadcrumbs. By the event eve, the city buzzed, press releases touting the Hargrove revelation, art as autobiography. Ethan arrived early, pacing the warehouse like a caged wolf, bourbon on his breath. This better pan out, he growled, straightening a canvas. Fracture. Innocently propped center stage. The warehouse thrummed with the elite's murmur, crystal glasses chiming like wind chimes in a hurricane, as spotlights carved dramatic pools across the concrete floor. Viv glided through in emerald silk, her arm linked with the DA's, silver-haired Harlan, whose handshake was iron and eyes sharper than a critic's quill. Ethan worked the room like a pro, schmoozing a Met curator over caviar blinis, his laugh booming false as a bad forgery. I hung in the shadows by the bar, nursing a gin and tonic, the ice melting slow as my resolve hardened. This was it, the varnish layer, sealing the truth beneath a gloss of glamour. Theo signaled from the podium, mic feedback squealing like a banshee. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Eclipse, the Hargrove legacy. Tonight, Isabella Hargrove unveils not just art, but a family's hidden strokes. Applause rippled, and I stepped forward, heart slamming against my ribs like a fist on canvas. The crowd blurred, faces from magazines, whispers of prodigy and scandal, but my gaze locked on Ethan, front row, arms crossed, that smile a rictus now. I began, voice amplified and steady. These paintings aren't decorations. They're confessions, layers of loss, betrayal, value buried under what looks like chaos. Gasps as I triggered the projectors, UV lights flooding the canvases, revealing the ciphers glowing like neon veins. Coordinates blinked first, pulling up the safety deposit box on a massive screen. Ledger scrolling, Ethan's signature damning in digital ink. Murmurs swelled to a roar. "What the hell?" someone hissed. Ethan surged forward, face ashen. "Izzy, stop this." But I cut him off, remote in hand, cueing the next layer. Marcus's video, pixelated but unmistakable, his voice tinny. The dose right. No mess. Chaos erupted. Phones whipped out, flashes popping like gunfire. Harlan the DA moved swift, two plainclothes flanking Ethan as he lunged for me, hands outstretched. "You bitch. This is forgery, lies." Viv intercepted, her slap echoing sharper than any bid call. "Lies? Like the ones you fed us about your father." The room froze, then ignited, critics scribbling, collectors backing away like I'd unleashed a Pollock splatter of scandal. I held the podium, legs jelly, as security wrestled Ethan down, his curses a guttural soundtrack. "Family first, you ungrateful." Cuffs clicked, cold and final, and he was hauled out into the rain-lashed night, sirens joining the downpour. The auction? It exploded. Bids skyrocketed. Eclipse fetched $2.3 million to an anonymous phone line. Viv later confessed. Her trust, for me. Fracture went for 1.8. The ciphers now collector catnip. Authenticity in atrocity. By dawn, headlines screamed. Hargrove heir unmasked. Art, murder, and millions. But triumph tasted like turpentine, bitter, acrid. I retreated to the loft as paparazzi swarmed the streets, their lenses vultures circling roadkill. Viv arrived with coffee and croissants, her embrace fierce. "You did it, Izzy. For them. For them." Dad's grin, Mom's hum, ghosts finally avenged. Yet as she left, the silence pressed, heavier than any canvas. My phone buzzed. "Carla. Charges filed. Manslaughter on the parents. Attempted on you. But, twist. Lab confirms the fentanyl vial. Your prints too, Izzy. From that night you helped Dad with his meds." The world tilted, gin rising sour in my throat. My prints. Flashes. That evening in 15, Dad wheezing in his chair, Ethan away on business, me crushing the pills at his slurred plea. "Ease it, kiddo, just ease it." Mercy, I called it then, tears blurring as I mixed the dose too strong. Ethan had found him, spun the tale, but I'd loaded the gun. The room spun, canvases mocking from the walls, my secrets, not just his. I stumbled to the bathroom, retching into porcelain, the truth a bile I couldn't paint over. Betrayal wasn't one way. I'd been complicit, burying my guilt under loyalty's veneer. The press spun wild. Sisters' revenge or shared sin? Forums lit up, Hargrove twist trending, debates raging on if I was avenger or accessory. Theo called, voice cautious. "The show's a hit, but you need a statement." Statement. What words could capture this fracture? I drafted it raw, fingers flying. Art reveals what we hide, even from ourselves. Tonight, we honor the lost by facing the layers. Sent. Then, the hardest stroke, a call to Harlan. The prince. I was there. End it. His pause stretched eternal. Self-defense of truth? Jury's out. But charges? We pivot to joint negligence. No cuffs for you yet. Yet. The word lingered like an unfinished edge. Ethan's arraignment was a circus, courthouse steps mobbed under gray November skies. I testified, voice cracking on the stand, laying bare the night. His whispers, my mercy kill, the pillow's final press. Jurors shifted, eyes accusatory. Had I damned him, or freed us both? Viv sat front row, hand over mouth, as his lawyer shredded me. Desperate artist fabricates for fame. But the video held, unyielding, and the ledger sealed it. Verdict, guilty on all counts. 25 to life, no parole. As they led him away, our eyes met, his pleading, mine pitiless. Why, Izzy, he mouthed. Eclipse, I whispered back. The months blurred into a haze of therapy and tours. My work touring the Met, retrospectives in LA, even a TED Talk on art as accountability. Checks cleared millions, funding that scholarship, buying back the brownstone to turn it into a studio co-op for kids like me. Overlooked, overburned. But the twist festered. My complicity, a shadow no UV light could erase. Dreams twisted now, not of suffocation, but of Dad's eyes begging, my hands trembling on the vial. One crisp December dawn, snow dusting the fire escapes, I stood at my easel, facing a blank stretch. No more ciphers, no revenge plots, just truth, unvarnished. The brush dipped in ivory black, first stroke hesitant. A silhouette, two figures entwined in grief. Brother and sister, not enemies, but echoes of the same fractured line. As the city woke below, horns blaring defiance, I painted on, layering forgiveness over fault, value not in dollars, but in the raw reveal. Yet doubt nagged, a persistent drip. Was this redemption, or just another layer of denial? Viv's Christmas invite loomed. Family now just us two, toasting ghosts over eggnog. I'd go, smile through the ache, but in quiet moments, Ethan's whisper haunted, family first. First in betrayal, first in blood. I'd revealed the value. All right. Priceless pain, sold for the price of a soul. Winter clamped New York in its iron grip, icicles daggering from brownstones like accusations frozen mid-drip, and I threw myself into the co-op's grand opening as if creation could cauterize the wound. The brownstone, our childhood cage, now repainted in hopeful whites and golds, buzzed with laughter from the first cohort. 10 young artists, diverse as the city's pulse, their canvases exploding with unfiltered fire. I wandered the halls, inhaling the chaos of turpentine and ambition, pausing at what used to be Dad's study. No more leather chair, just communal tables scarred with possibility. Ms. Hargrove, a girl, maybe 19, Latina with braids like ropes, held up her sketch, a fractured skyline, secrets woven in the cracks. Like yours. Layers. I nodded, throat tight. Keep layering. The truth always bleeds through. But truth's bleed was relentless. Tabloids wouldn't quit. Izzy's innocence, mercy or murder, splashed across the post, my face pixelated beside Ethan's mugshot. Talk shows beckoned, vultures in suits promising closure. I dodged most, but landed on NPR one snowy afternoon, voice steady in the studio's hush. Art saved me by forcing the reveal. I told the host, words measured like brushloads. Value isn't assigned, it's excavated. Listeners called in, support from survivors, vitriol from trolls. One voice cracked through static. You profited off death. Monster. The mic went dead, but the echo lingered. Viv pulled strings for a psych eval. Mandatory for the co-op board, she said, but really for me. Dr. Lena, a no-bullshit shrink from Harlem with locks and a gaze that peeled psyches like onions, met me in a coffee shop off Lenox. Complicity's a bitch, she said over lattes, no preamble. You euthanized out of love, he weaponized out of greed. Nuance matters. Nuance. The word mocked as I spilled it all. The vial, the pillow, the rebirth's cruel gift. She nodded, jotting notes. Revenge rewrote your story, but guilt's the real antagonist. Paint it out. Paint it. As if grief fit a frame. I tried. Nights in the co-op, after hours, I'd claim the old nursery, pink walls now neutral gray, and attack fresh canvases. Mercy emerged first. Dad's form blurred in sepia, my hands ghostly overlays. No heroes, just humans breaking. Critics hailed it at a pop-up in Chelsea. Hargrove's raw reckoning. Bidding wars ensuing, proceeds to overdose prevention. But sales felt tainted, each deposit a reminder. I'd turned tragedy to treasure, blood to bank. Ethan's appeal hearing dropped like a February blizzard, burying the city in legal briefs and media frenzy. I testified again, this time via video link from the co-op, screen glowing cold in the wood-paneled room. His lawyer, a slick ambulance chaser from Jersey, grilled me. You admit assisting in the overdose? Motive for framing your brother. The feed jittered, Ethan's face looming pixelated, eyes hollowed by Riker's grind. Izzy, tell them. He pleaded off mic, voice a rasp. We were in it together. Together. The lie twisted fresh, but I held, reciting the video's timestamp, the ledger's dates. Together in loss, not crime. The judge denied appeal, gavel cracking like dry canvas. And as the link cut, his final glare burned. Not hate, but hunger, for the sister I'd been, blind and bound. Spring thawed the streets, cherry blossoms rioting pink along the High Line. And with it came the twist I never saw coming. A letter arrived, postmarked Sing Sing. No return address, but his inmate number scrawled in block letters. I slid it open in the co-op kitchen, steam from my tea curling like question marks. Izzy. It began, penmanship jagged. You won. But you don't know the half. Mom's crash. Not me. Break line cut. By her lover, that advisor Dad trusted. I covered for the family name. Checked the dash cam footage from the garage. Destroyed it after. Your revenge buried the real monster. Forgive? Or finish it? My mug shattered on tile, ceramic shards scattering like accusations. Lover? Advisor? Flashes. Mom's late nights. Perfume lingering. Dad's distracted silences. The garage cam. Gone, but backups? I called Marcus, voice urgent over the line. Dig deeper. Mom's accident. Discreet. He grunted assent, but warned. This rabbit hole's got teeth, kid. You ready to bleed more? I wasn't, but momentum's a cruel master. Nights devolved into archival hunts. Old emails, voicemails scrubbed from clouds. Viv's attic yielding a dusty hard drive from Mom's Volvo. Password cracked in hours. Our birthday, twin digits mocking from the screen. Footage flickered to life, grainy black and white. Mom pulling in post-midnight. Then a shadow, tall, hooded, crouching by the undercarriage. No face, but the gate. Familiar. I froze framed, heart seizing. Harlan's PA, the trusted advisor who'd handled Dad's portfolio, now retired to Florida Keys. Confrontation brewed hot as July pavement. I flew solo to Miami. Economy seat a cage rattling with turbulence mirroring my gut. He met me at a beachfront bistro, silver fox and linen, my tie sweating condensation. Isabella Hargrove, the prodigy avenger. His smile was sunscreen slick, but eyes darted like cornered rats. I slid a printout across, the frame, time-stamped. Explain. He blanched, stirring his drink. Ancient history. Your mother. We had an affair. She wanted out. Divorce would have tanked the firm. Your dad's rep. I panicked. Sabotage, not murder. Not murder. The euphemism curdled. Why cover? I pressed, voice low over conch fritters. Ethan knew. He nodded, slow. Told him weeks before. He begged me to fix it. Offered silence for a cut of the estate. Kid's greed sealed it. Sealed it. Like wax on a death warrant. I leaned in, salt air thick. And Dad. A shrug, casual as a wave. Fentanyl was his idea. Insurance scam gone wrong. I sourced it clean. Clean. The word ignited, and I stood, chair scraping. No more layers. DA gets this. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, the eclipse tattoo glaring. Wait. I can pay. Millions. For the co-op, your silence. Silence. The offer hung, temptation's hook barbed deep. Walk away rich, let the ghosts rest? Or drag another devil into the light? Risk the co-op's funding, my fragile peace? I wrenched free, storming into the surf, waves crashing judgment. Back in New York, packaged to Harlan. Drive, prints, transcript of our meet, recorded, of course, on my phone. Arrests followed swift. Advisor in cuffs at dawn, charges piling like storm clouds. But the cost? Viv's call shattered the high. The board spooked, Izzy. Donors pulling out, too controversial. The co-op teetered, artists' faces falling as I broke the news. That night, alone in the nursery, I faced mercy, its blurred forms accusing. Complicity's chain, Mom's lover, Ethan's cover, my mercy, his greed, a daisy chain of damnation. Brush in hand, I slashed over it, gesso white, blank slate. No more confessions, just creation, pure and punishing. Summer solstice brought the trial's echo, advisors' plea deal, spilling beans on a network of elite fixes. Politicians, CEOs, all trading silence for shares. Headlines crowned me, the painter who unpainted lies. But the vitriol surged too, petitions to defund the co-op, glorifying killers. I rallied, town hall packed with supporters, artists chanting, donors doubling down. Values in the vulnerability, I told them, voice raw. We voted. Stay the course. Truths be damned. Ethan wrote again, post-conviction. You finished it. Proud, sis. Use the light. Light. From the dark. I burned the letter in the co-op's hearth, ashes swirling like freed strokes. Forgiveness? Not yet. But understanding. That was the true reveal. Autumn gilded the city anew, leaves carpeting Central Park in reckless gold, and the co-op stabilized, waitlist swelling, grants flowing from unlikely quarters. A tech mogul moved by the TED clip, a foundation honoring whistleblower women. I curated the first group show, unlayered, in a pop-up on the Bowery. Raw works from my mints, no ciphers, just unapologetic expression. Opening night, the space pulsed with bodies and bass from a DJ spinning lo-fi beats, air thick with possibility. The braided girl, now Maria, unveiled her skyline. Sold for 10 grand to a collector who wept. You taught me to bleed true, she hugged me after. True. The word anchored, a keel in choppy waters. But closure's a myth, as slippery as wet pigment. Harlan called mid-harvest moon, voice gravel over the line. Advisor flipped full, ties to Ethan's gambling ring. Even a hit on you pre-trial. Forwarded, but you're clear. No charges. Clear. The absolution washed, but left residue. I visited Ethan unannounced, Sing Sing's gray walls leaching color from the world. Processing dragged, pat-downs, buzzers, the clang of gates like judgmental gavel. He shuffled in, orange jumpsuit swallowing his frame, face gaunt but eyes alight. Izzy, didn't expect. We sat across scarred metal, plexiglass humming between. The letter, I started, no preamble. Mom's truth. He nodded, slow, fingers tracing invisible strokes. Covered for us all. Thought it'd protect. Ended up chaining. Chaining. Echo of my tattoo, the eclipse's curve. And me? The pillow. His gaze dropped. Snapped. After your mercy on Dad, I thought. Easier to end the unraveling. You with your paintings, sniffing too close. Too close. The confession hung. Not excuse, but explanation. A final layer peeled. Forgive, he asked, voice small. The question ballooned, filling the sterile booth. Flashes. Childhood forts in the brownstone attic. Him shielding me from bullies, sharing stolen charcoals. Betrayal's blade cut both ways. Not yet, I said honest. But I'm painting forward. You should too. Art programs here. He chuckled, bitter. Watercolors. Stick figures mostly. I slid a sketch pad through the slot. Blessed by guards. Blank pages waiting. Fill it. Reveal your value. His hand trembled taking it. Our fingers brushing like old brush tips. Thanks, sis. Driving back, throughway blurring in dusk, catharsis cracked open. Not fireworks, but a slow dawn. The co-op waited, lights winking welcome, and I dove into a solo piece. Revealed. A triptych spanning the nursery wall. Left panel. Family intact, colors warm as memory. Center. Fractures, reds and blacks clashing in chaos. Right. Rebirth. Golds bleeding into blues. Figures emerging not whole, but whole enough. Critics called it Hargrove's magnum opus, Sotheby's estimate. 8 figures. I donated it whole to the Met, no sale. Value in legacy, not ledgers. Thanksgiving gathered us sparse. Viv and me, co-op kids crashing with pies and stories, the brownstone alive again. Over turkey and truths, Viv raised her glass. To layers lifted. Laughter rippled, real and ragged. Later, washing dishes, she confided. Ethan called, from prison. Wants to contribute sketches for the next show. Sketches. From the dark. I nodded, suds swirling. Let him. Redemption's the ultimate twist. Winter's Eve brought the call I'd half dreaded. Parole board whisper, early release for good behavior, tied to restitution, paying back the estate, funding victims' families. Ethan, out in 5. The news hit like a nor'easter, winds howling doubt. But I faced it at the easel, adding a postscript panel to revealed, a door ajar, lights spilling, uncertain. When he walked free, gray-streaked, humbled, sketchpad underarm. The meeting was quiet, coffee in a neutral diner off Broadway. Sis, he said, no titles. I filled it. Pages flipped. Abstracts born of bars, bars of cells, bars of memory, raw, redemptive. We didn't hug, not yet. But words flowed, strokes of dialogue rebuilding bridges. Co-op needs a mentor. I offered, testing. His nod was tentative. If they'll have me. They did, vetting strict, but the kids saw past the scars, to the shared strokes of survival. Holidays healed incremental. Awkward Thanksgivings swelling to full tables, Viv mediating with wry asides. Art bridged what words couldn't. His watercolors hanging beside mine in the co-op hall, dialogues in dilute hues. Years layered on, New York evolving as we did. Co-op to full academy, my name etched in grants and galleries. Ethan's story a cautionary keynote at ethics panels. No fairy tale, no erasure of blood, no instant absolution. But value? Revealed in the rebuild. Family not perfect, but persistent, painting over pain with persistence. One dawn, easel before the skyline, brush wet with possibility, I whispered to the ghosts, we worth it all. And in that stroke, the canvas breathed, complete, controversial, alive.